You asked, Nikon listened. The Nikon Z30, Nikon's answer for content creators and emerging photographers and filmmakers. I've held it, I tested it, and I can say that there's so much more to this camera than meets the trained eye. What's up, Gearheads? Noel here. Welcome back to Hammerhead Gearhead. First off, I would like to announce that this is my 30th review on this show, ever since I started 2 years ago in 2020. So I find it incredible that I'm reviewing the Z30 now. So Z30 on my 30th episode. How grand does that sound? Also, I'd like to share that I now have 2 Instagram accounts. So I still have my tentpole one, Noel Guevara photo for my conservation, adventure, and wildlife work. But I also have the road-worthy man. So this is for my travel, street, lifestyle, and portrait work, shot on both digital and film. So please show some love and follow both accounts. And if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And then let's jump into the Z30. Right, first let's get the specifications out of the way. The Nikon Z30 is a 21 megapixel aps-c camera. Underneath the hood is a CMOS sensor and X-Speed 6 processor. It has an ISO range of 100 to 51,200 and it can record at 4K at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. At 1080p, it can record until 120 frames per second. There's no option to record on log, but you have a flat profile. It's also crucial to know that the Z30 doesn't have in-body image stabilization. It has a built-in microphone, more on that later, and a microphone port but no headphone jack. And sadly, it only has a micro HDMI port. It has a single slot for the UHS SD card and it uses the NL25 battery. It measures 5.04 by 2.91 by 2.36 inches and weighs 405 grams. Price is at $710 body only, $850 with the 16-50 kit lens, and $1,050 with the 16-50 and 50-250 lenses. Full disclosure, this camera was lent to me by Nikon Philippines at my request. So no strings attached and all opinions here are my own. Also, this video is more of a field review rather than a technical analysis or assessment. There are so many of those already online. You can find them with a simple search. I had the great pleasure of shooting with this camera for a week in Europe, and I have to say that I had so much fun with it. Now, as I said previously, the Z30 is Nikon's solution for content creators and emerging photographers and filmmakers that want more control and better image quality, and this is clearly evident in how the camera was designed. One noticeable feature, or lack thereof, is the non-existent electronic viewfinder. To me, more than anything, the absence of an EVF is Nikon clearly defining the target market for their camera, which are those looking for something that's entry-level. This won't appeal to professional photographers like myself because we need the EVF to accurately assess the shots that we're about to take or the photos that we have already taken. But not to say that the LCD screen is a pushover. It measures 3 inches and has 1,040,000 dots. And unlike the ridiculous flip-down screen of the Z50, this one is fully articulated, which makes it perfect for content creators and vloggers. The focusing of this camera is quite good, having the same autofocus features of other Nikon Z cameras, specifically the eye and animal eye autofocus, which I truly enjoy. It also has a tally lamp, that's this red light right here that tells you if it's recording or not. Again, a nifty feature for content creators. Now on top of the camera is an internal stereo microphone. I was able to test it on my Tempelhof Airport video and it did okay. I'm here now in Berlin in Germany and right behind me is the Flughafen Tempelhof or Tempelhof Airport. Sounds good, right? Let's test that further. The Z30 has a few options available for audio or their microphone on the menu system, specifically microphone sensitivity, frequency response, and wind noise reduction. So for frequency response, you have wide range and vocal range. Obviously, you choose wide for recording for scenes and vocal for talking heads. Since this camera is primarily made for vlogging, let's focus on the vocals. Alright, so let's start with indoors. This is how I sound with frequency response set to wide and with noise reduction set to off. Now, this is how I sound with frequency response set to voice and with noise reduction set to off. Now, as added comparison, this is how I sound with the Deity D4 mini mic attached to the Nikon Z30, so you can just compare across the board. You can also check out my review of this amazing small mic in this link right here. Alright, so now we're here outdoors with frequency response set to wide and with noise reduction set to off. And there's a lot of ambient noise, there's someone sweeping, a few houses down, there's an airplane overhead and construction probably 2 blocks away. So you probably could hear all of those. Next, this is with frequency response set to voice, but with noise reduction still set to off. There is just a bit of a light breeze, so I don't know if that can be heard on camera. Third test, this is with frequency response set to voice and with noise reduction set to on. Now there is again more ambient sound, the sweeping is here, the airplane, it's closer and louder than ever. Light breeze and construction again going on 2 blocks away. And finally, this is how I sound using the Deity D4 mini microphone. Now ideally, it's better practice to apply noise reduction in post for more control and better overall quality. But if you don't have time for that or don't know how to do that, then turning it on in camera would also work. Okay, so let's get into the field review proper and start with travel photography. In my most recent video prior to this one, I used the Z30 for a photography tour of the Flughafen Tempelhof or Tempelhof Airport in Berlin. You can watch the full video through the link on the upper right. Photographing this massive, beautiful airport that is rich in history comes with its own set of challenges. Since I was photographing interiors, lighting was dim for architectural photography and I didn't have a tripod at that time. Add to that the lens I had was the kit lens with an f3.5 maximum aperture, so it wasn't fast enough. The only solution was to bump up the ISO on an aps-c camera, and since it didn't have in-body image stabilization, I had to stay above the 1/60 shutter speed. Despite all that, the results were beautiful, and I'm really happy with what I got. Although I wouldn't say they're particularly sharp in terms of image quality. My main problem was noise, as you can see here in the straight out of camera photo. But with some noise reduction, global color and exposure adjustment, the shots transformed to images that I was incredibly happy with. While it may seem that I'm putting down the Z30, I'm not. I'm incredibly satisfied with the photos, especially considering the challenges that I encountered and that I was shooting with an entry-level camera. It gave me everything that I wanted out of it, and at the end of the day, the best camera is the one that you have with you. One of the reasons I went to Berlin is to do street photography, and I had 5 days to do this using the Z30, my Z7, and my FM2 film camera. Now, I truly enjoyed shooting street photography with the Z30 because of how light, small, and handy it is. And also, and this doesn't get mentioned often in reviews, the battery life. I was able to go through 1 whole day shooting street photography without having to change batteries. The kit lens was also up to the task. I had it set at 24mm, which is 35mm on an aps-c camera. But there is one thing that held me back from enjoying the Z30 thoroughly for street photography, and ironically, it's the articulating screen. So when I shoot street photography, sometimes I actually bring it up to my eye so that I can compose, but sometimes I also like shooting from the hip, so it's, you're less noticeable. And with the Z7, the screen allows you to, or the Z7 allows you to slant the screen upward so you can see it like so, but you can't do that with the Z30. You have to flip it out, twist it, and angle it, and immediately you're more noticeable, you're no longer inconspicuous, and you have a bigger footprint. And yeah, it's one of those annoying things. And I wish, again, ironically, they could have done that also on top of the articulating screen. In terms of strengths, the Z30 has many. Let's get started with the build. It's very small, handy, and lightweight. I've said that over and over. And ergonomics are really good for its size. This is what I love about the Nikon Z line. Everything is easy to use, comfortable to use, and I can operate them with one hand, which I have been doing. And also, they're very robust and weatherproof. As you can see in this photo, this is how I carry it around. It's connected to my shoulder strap using a Peak Design clip, and no worries at all. Next would be the controls. I like having the two command dials at my fingertips, literally, so I can adjust ISO, aperture, and shutter speed. Also, I love the touch screen, and of course, the menu system. No complaints there. Everything is organized and easy to find, so it feels like home. In terms of features, the articulating screen, of course, is a godsend compared to the Z50. Again, hoping that it would just slant upwards. And of course, the microphone jack. And I think this one elevates, the production capabilities of the Z30 significantly. Lastly, in terms of image quality, absolutely great, especially with the 16 to 50 lens. I know this isn't part of the camera per se, or technically speaking, but I love the 16 to 50 lens, even if it's a kit lens. There are so many kit lenses on the Nikon Z line that I love. The 16 to 50 DX, the one we have here, and even the 24 to 70 f4, they're great lenses. But with this lens, I've actually shot Ellie and Child, one of my most popular photos. It's a photo of an Asian elephant and her calf. It has sold out in terms of print, and that was shot with this kit lens. In terms of improvements, I also have a few, and I'd like to start with the lack of an EVF. An EVF is crucial for professional photographers, mainly because that's the only way you can accurately assess your photo or the scene that you're taking a photo of. Using the LCD screen is fine, but you are under the mercy of ambient light. So let's say it's too bright, you'll have to squint. You may have a faulty read of exposure, for example, and if there's glare from the sun, then that completely ruins what you're seeing. So an EVF for me is absolutely crucial, but I also think this is because of the class, the product class of the Z30. That's why they chose to remove it. Another one would be the lack of a headphone jack. So that would really put it a significant level up in terms of production capability. So the mic port is great, but headphone jack is also crucial. And again, the flipping up of the screen would be nice, the slanting up. And finally, the lack of in-body image stabilization. It's great that I have that with the 16 to 50 lens. It's stabilized, but if you're using a lens that doesn't have stabilization, then you have to adjust accordingly. It's not something that you can't overcome, but of course, EBIS is always good to have. Okay, so what are my final thoughts on the Z30? First, it's really great for content creators. It ticks all the boxes. Whether you're a travel vlogger, which I did, a studio reviewer, which I'm doing now, or a live streamer, which I occasionally do, it's perfect. Second, for entry-level users, whether you're an emerging photographer or filmmaker, it gives you more control, better image quality, and interchangeable lenses. And if you are also the type who have been shooting using a smartphone, this is a great step up. It's also not restrictive as a budget entry-level camera. One thing I hate is that moment where you feel like you've outgrown your camera, that you cannot grow anymore as a photographer or filmmaker because the features are not available to you. This has all of them, so that won't be a problem. So it's really bang for the buck. For professional photographers, this is a great backup or emergency camera. For me in particular, I love how I can use it for vlogging on top of being a backup camera. So it's very light. I don't have to worry about it in terms of how much my hand carry or my carry-on would weigh. So that's absolutely perfect. And the big question, of course, is why the Z30 over the Z50? EVF aside, first of all, the flip screen, much better than the Z50, and also the price, obviously. And that's it for my 30th review, which is on the Nikon Z30. Now, I know this camera has been out for a while, so there are a lot of reviews and people have actually used this camera already. So please share your experiences in the comments below. I'd love to read them, and people who watch this video would want that additional information as well. And if you haven't yet, please follow my Instagram accounts, Noel Guevara Photo and The Roadworthy Man. And lastly, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. So 30th review done. I will see you on the 31st. Cheers.